Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Amy and today we are going to be working on 3 super easy t-shirt style dresses for toddler girls. So first of all, I just went and got some different scrap materials, some blue, some white, and also this pink. It's more of a stretchy kind of material. So we're going to be working with those. And then I also got 2 t-shirts. I'm not sure which one I'll use yet. And these are just t-shirts from Walmart. And so I got 2 of those. And then I also got a couple men's shirts. These are also just Walmart, just a basic t-shirt. So I got 2 of those. We'll see which one I use. Then also I have my scissors, my Ginger scissors that I've had for years, and I use it all the time and I love it. And then also just a pattern for the dresses, and my fabric weights that I use to cut out fabric with. So we're going to start out with this pink t-shirt here. So this one, I kind of use part of my pattern to make this one. First of all, I just cut off the sleeves to make it easier to work with, and then also just cut up both of the sides. Now you want to cut as close to the seams as you can, just to make it easier and come out a little bit better for your skirt. So now I'm just going to adjust this neckline here. I'm going to put the pattern, the bodice pattern, on top, just so I know where the neck needs to be, and the back neck as well. Now you don't need to allow any seam allowance, of course, because we're not going to put a seam around the neck. So I'm just going to adjust the front upwards, if that makes any sense, to make the neck a little smaller for a little girl. And then as I go, I just kind of put the bodice pattern back on and just see how I need to adjust it to get the neck to be right according to the pattern. It doesn't sound like that's making sense, but if you just lay the pattern back on and just eliminate the seam allowance and just try to get it somewhat right. So then once you have it to where you want it, you just take it and fold it in half and try to get it as flat as you can, the undersides, and get everything as flat as you can. And it probably won't be totally perfect, but so far my dresses have always came out right. So, and then just put the bodice back on. Just make sure you get it where you want it before you start cutting. And then I'm just going to put some fabric weights on here just to keep it in place while I cut. And then just cut out the bodice part down to the waist. Just don't cut the waist part out. And then at the bottom of the waist, I usually make just a little snip so I know where the waistline is supposed to be. And then I'm just going to cut a diagonal line for the skirt part as close out to the edge of the t-shirt as I can. And then wherever the bottom of the t-shirt is where the hemline will be. So depending on the size of your little girl, you'll need to get a larger size. This was an extra large shirt, just for information's sake. And now for the sleeves, we're just going to use the original sleeves, and I'm going to use the original hemline as well, and just fix the sleeve to where the hemline comes out at the bottom there, around 1 inch or 2. It just depends how long you want your sleeves to be. And that is it for this dress. It's all cut out already and ready to be sewn. And I also have some scrap pieces, so if I want to add something, I have a little extra material there to do something with. So the next one that we're going to work on is the little t-shirt, and this is a 2T size. Just get whatever size dress you're making. And then so we're going to fold this one in half as well, and then just lay the bodice on, and then just cut wherever your waist would be. And so I wasn't sure, do I want to use white for the skirt or the navy blue? I liked how each one looked, but I decided to go with the navy blue in the end, just simply because the white is obviously going to get dirty easier and stained and things like that. So we'll just go with a dark color, and I think it'll look cute this way too. So now for this skirt, I basically just use my skirt pattern. Now this is a fitted skirt pattern on the top, so there's no gathers up on the top or anything. So this will fit fairly well on the little t-shirt that we just cut. But just check your skirt pattern on the top. You may have to adjust it just a little bit to make it fit in your t-shirt. And that one's ready to go as well. So now for the last one, this one will be a little bit different as well. We're going to use this pink fabric, and basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of Chloe's other dresses, fold it in half, and place it right on top of the fabric there, and get it as close to perfect as I can. It's not going to lay perfectly, and then just put some fabric weights on it just to keep it in place while you cut, and then just cut around the dress. Now I kind of forgot and didn't really cut extra for seam allowance, but you may want to cut a little bit extra for a seam allowance. This is a pretty stretchy fabric, so it worked out fine, but you'll need 2 of these pieces, and then one of the pieces you'll want to cut the neck out a little bigger for the front. So now we're going to just get started here with this dress, and basically we're going to start with the skirt, sewing the 2 side seams good sides together, and then we're going to iron it down on the back and the front. And if you do have a serger, it would be a good idea to serge these seams before you start sewing. I should have done it and I didn't. It turned out okay, but it should have been serged so it doesn't fray as much. But I'm just going to iron this really well before we move on. And then next we're going to sew the skirt onto the top, and how I'm going to do this, I'm going to turn the skirt inside out, and then we're going to take the t-shirt and tuck it inside the skirt. That way the good sides are together. We're going to align the 2 side seams together, the t-shirt and the skirt side seams, and then we're going to fit in the rest however it fits in. Now if you need to stretch it just a little bit, it's fine, but it should be pretty much fitted here. And then I'm going to do the back the exact same way. Alright, and now it's ready to sew. Right, and again, just iron this down really well, just to keep it in place where it needs to be. And then for the hem, I'm just gonna hem it up just a little bit, put a little hem in the bottom. And then I wanted to add a little bit extra on the skirt, so I took some of that extra from the t-shirt that we had cut off, and I cut out a strip, folded it in half, and then I sewed a gathering stitch on one end. And now I'm just gathering it. I'm gonna make a little flower to sew onto the skirt. And so this is just how I do this. It's just a little added extra that you can put on. This is totally optional. You don't need to do this at all, but it just adds a little pop of color. And then just twist it around as you gather it. And then once I like how it looks, I'll twist it around and then pin it really well so it stays in place. And there's one flower done, and I did two of them. I did a bigger one as well. So now we're just gonna figure out where we want these flowers on the skirt, and then once we got that figured out, I'm just gonna pin it down really well all the way around. And then I usually just hand stitch these on, just get them sewn on there as best you can. There we go. And I'm gonna finish them off with putting a little button in the middle. And the first dress is already done. So this was a very easy dress. If you have just a regular dress pattern, all you need for this one is a skirt pattern. And you can actually, if you don't have a skirt pattern, you really could just make a skirt, just eyeball it. It's not that hard to make a skirt. Alright, and then for this dress, the t-shirt, basically just sew the shoulder seams together first of all. Get it ironed on the back and on the front. And then next we're just going to put on the sleeves, and I'm going to take a pin and pin the center so I know where the center is, or you can also just take a scissors and make a small slit there in the center, just something so you know where the center is to line up with the shoulder seam. And then just pin it on and fit it in. Now this will probably need to be stretched a little bit, the sleeve, but this actually makes so that it fits in and it looks better once it's sewn. If it's stretched just a little bit, you don't want it stretched too much, but just a little. And so we're just going to fit that in and then do the exact same thing on the other sleeve. And then once we got that done, we're just going to sew the sleeves on. Alright, so we got that sewn on. Now next we are going to do something for the waistline. Now I cut these slits in so I know where the waistline is, but you totally don't have to do this at all. But I just took some extra of the t-shirt, the hem that we had cut off, and I just cut a strip out of that just to make it fit for like a little belt or something on the waistline. and then I just roughed up the edges there by pulling it. And then we're just gonna make it fit onto the waist there, pin it on, and then we'll sew it on. And then I also will do this on the back as well. Alright, and then we're just going to sew one seam through the middle. Now for the skirt, I wanted to do something a little different. I'm going to sew in some diagonal little tucks. So for the first one, I just kind of eyeballed where I wanted it and then just folded it over, and now I'm just pinning it really well. And then we're just going to sew this just a very narrow seam allowance. Here you can see how that one looks, and then we're just going to add a couple more. But for the others, I'm actually going to take my ruler and measure about an inch down from the first one, and then I'm going to pin it, and then we can sew that one, and then we'll do the same for the third one. Here is the skirt finished. Now I just did this on the front, and then I added this flower that I had on hand. I just added that onto those tucks. Now I'm going to sew down the side seam, making sure everything lines up, all the seams line up, and then we're just going to sew this together on both sides. And then once we're done, we're just gonna again iron it down really well on the back and then also on the front. Now this you can fold it up and put a hem in if you like, but being this is like a stretchy material, I'm actually gonna take a zigzag stitch and stretch it as I sew, and this will give it a nice little ruffled edge to it. You'll see it here once it's done, but it just gives a nice edge to it, and it just makes so you don't have to put that hem in. So here's this dress all done. Again, a super easy dress. You kind of need a bodice pattern for this one. And now on to the last dress. Basically, we're going to just start with sewing the shoulder seams together, make sure the right sides of the fabric are together. We're just going to pin these before we sew them. And then once we have that sewed, we're just going to iron them down really well so they stay. And then for the neckline, we are just going to fold it over and just basically make a little seam all the way around. So for the edges of the sleeve, we're just going to do it the same way, put a zigzag stitch and just ruffle it up a little bit. And now again for this waist, I wanted to just add a little waistline in. So we're just going to do 2 of those tucks like we did on the last dress, which we're going to do them here along the waist. Basically just to give it the appearance that there's a belt so now I'm just measuring to get it the right measurement to make it even all the way across. And now this is something that you could do. I had this ribbon laying around. You could have added like something like this for a belt. That would have been really pretty. And if you wanted to go a little further, add a little bow. Just an idea. I didn't do that, but that's something that you could do. And then I'm also going to add this button here onto the waistline on the side. Alright, so I had that sewed on. Now for the skirt, the hem, we're going to do the same way by zigzagging and stretching the fabric as we sew. And this will just, again, give it that nice ruffled, finished look. Alright, and here is this dress all done. So I had a lot of fun sewing these dresses, and they're super easy to sew and they don't take a lot of time. Chloe was thrilled with all of the dresses that I'd made for her. She woke up the next morning, I showed her all the dresses, and she was so happy. She wanted to try them all on and see how they fit, and she had so much fun. So that is going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you got some ideas or some tips. If you have a little girl that you want to sew some summer dresses, hopefully this gave you some ideas. So I'll leave you to that. Have fun sewing. Bye.